We can call the meeting to order.
All right.
Roll call. Okay, Peter. Thank you. Here.
Here. Kepler. Here. Dodgeworth.
Here.
Porter. Here. Simon.
Here.
Not present is Terry.
Okay, we have a quorum, so we can conduct business. Proof of posting, this was posted on the 18th. Home News, Star News, Times Tribune, Village of Reno, Village of Blacker, Village of Mazo, and the Village of Cross Plains. So, we will go to approval of agenda. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public comment. Anybody from the public that would like to have a comment? You get 3 minutes. Does anybody here would like to say something? Hearing none, we will move along. Approval of the minutes for May 16th, 2024.
Which I don't have a copy of.
It's not in your stack up here? No. Oh.
Yeah, okay, you got one.
Looks to her.
Yeah, they look different because.
Because I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Just stating fact.
They're
You
not
could
written.
say more complete.
They're not
yeah.
written in
It's in
crayon.
the stuff,
I feel.
it's in the new one you gave me tonight.
Yeah, they're not written in crayon, so that's why they look different.
So I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Who, second, Bob?
Yes.
Okay. Any further comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Review and approval of the O&M bills for May 2024.
I move to approve as presented.
All right.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have O&M bills. Review and approval of the replacement bills for May 2024.
Same motion.
Second.
Okay, Ray and Kate, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Replacement bill. Review and approval of the May 2024 financial statement.
I'm happy to see them and I move that they're
I gotta
approved.
give Sean all the props on it, I really do.
Cool.
I told him, if it was me, maybe we could try next month again, but he stuck with it and got it.
Cool. Did I get a second on that, or did
Yeah.
Kate already did? Any further discussion besides, picking Sean up and carrying him around on her shoulder? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Discussion of possible action on RLU true. Then that is.
Yep. So Lisa's going to walk you through the memos, but just so, because I don't know that everyone was on the board the last time we did one of these. You guys have a significant discharge ordinance within the intermunicipal agreement, and that spells out how you treat significant dischargers. Cardinal Glass was the first one, and for those of you around in 2017, I think it was, 2017 marked the first time we trued up their RLUs, and what that means is, based upon that ordinance, you guys have a method of calculating RLUs for Cardinal Glass. They were charged a connection fee on day zero when they connected based on estimated discharge volumes. Then after a certain period of time, and in Cardinal's case, it was something like 9 years, you had agreed with Mazamani to review what Cardinal Glass's discharges were, and then either do a one-time refund or addition to the connection fee, and then every 3 years thereafter, you review the review the RLUs, and they will get another connection fee charged to them if their RLUs increase over time. It'll never be decreased again after that first one, because that first one kind of sets the stage for this is the number of RLUs you are, because previous to that it had just been estimated again. So that started with Cardinal. When Arena Cheese came in 3 years ago, they were your second significant discharger, so we're now at the beginning of the first review of their stuff. And then just because it happens to fall from a budget and true up standpoint for Wisconsin Heights. Wisconsin Heights has always been kind of in question. You know, the RLUs for Heights were set 24 years ago or 25 years ago when the municipal agreements were signed, and everyone just kind of agreed, we're just going to let them be 55 forever. Well, then they consolidated the schools. So as we were talking with Jeff during true up and budget time, because of the school consolidation, that brought about a good period to look at Wisconsin Heights. So the intent for this is each one of these memos goes through the RLU estimates for each one of those and then recommends how we move forward with all of them.
And then the schools, the elementary schools in all the communities were artificially kept low.
No,
Because at the first time they were high, remember?
they were based on, the schools and the communities were based on meter size.
And then we set them at a different rate.
That's not what's in the record.
Yeah, we did it to all schools, Arena,
Okay.
Mazel, Black Earth,
Okay.
just the elementary school.
Okay.
So that's how
Well-
they arrived at this 5 that they were.
Sure. So you want to go through the memos quick?
Yeah.
And we can answer questions.
So how it's laid out, we just have the past, usually 3 years. We added 2023 to Cardinal Glass, just so Cardinal Glass and Arena Cheese would be on the same review year. But looking at the past 4 years of Cardinal Glass, the highest RLUs were calculated in 2022, 32.8. In the previous true up, it was 32.6. So they went up by 0.2, which comes out to $375 of additional connection fee owed by Cardinal Glass.
To clarify that, owed by Mesa Maney, who can choose to charge Cardinal
Correct.
Glass.
Yes.
So we'll get the,
So Mesa Maney
is
will
it
get
a
the
separate bill or is it going to be included in our normal monthly invoice?
That's a good question because I don't know how Brian did it before. So I'll have to help you figure that out. But I
Yeah.
think it was a separate invoice.
I think that would make the most
Generally.
sense.
I believe
Yeah.
it's just like Arena Cheese, how.
Yeah.
Yeah. However,
Generally,
he
just
did-
like the opposite direction, it was done as a separate item because we had to do that once before too.
We've already billed the villages for the additional RLUs, and they included that in their monthly invoice.
So this would be like a connection fee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this doesn't affect anything to do with budgetary RLUs. You know, the FCI account, anything like that. Because we're calculating it every year. What is their RLUs for the purposes of your audit? This is purely truing up connection fees associated with each of those significant dischargers. So you'll charge it just like a connection fee.
Gotcha.
Is that a yearly charge? Or is it,
It's a one-time.
No,
so the
The
375?
375. Yeah,
That's,
the
if you build a new
375
house,
is a
that's what you
one-time.
pay.
It's actually $18.75 per RLU.
Yes.
Yeah.
Per
Yeah.
new RLU, but since it's 0.2, it's
Right.
$375.
So they originally paid whatever it was, $60,000.
Right.
Let's say we refunded them down to $30,000 in 2017 because they overpaid their connection fee, and now every 3 years thereafter we re-review what have your RLUs been for the last 3 years. If it goes up, we continue charging them connection fee because they're equivalent of more households
Right.
in terms of impact for the treatment plant.
So this is a 3-year fee.
So this is actually
Three-year
Arena
true-up.
Cheese's
True-up,
one.
excuse me,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's it?
Yeah.
This is Arena
Basically,
Cheese.
No, the
Every
first
3
one
years.
is
First
just
one's
the Cardinal
Cardinal
Glass.
Glass.
Yeah, no, Cardinal owes us $375.
And that's
Yes.
according to all
Yes.
the data.
Yeah.
We owe Arena Cheese $64.
Yeah. Yes.
You're getting ahead.
Which
She has
is
to surrender.
Arena's
It goes
Cheese's
to
money. They've already paid that.
Assuming that Arena charged it direct to Arena
Yeah.
Cheese, because again, it's just
Yeah,
between
but it's
Arena
not the
and
bill.
Dane-Iowa.
This
Yeah.
should go back to Arena Cheese.
That would be up to the village of Arena.
Right, but we're talking about Cardinal right now, so let's try to stick with that. Okay, so do we have to take any action or can we take action in group?
You
or-
can do it as a group if you want to.
Okay,
It's however you want. If you want to do them individually, you can do that under this. It's because you have the.
I think
all
we'll do it as a
described.
group unless
Yep.
someone objects to it.
So
Okay, so then moving into Arena Cheese, which is a
Okay.
little bit thicker. So this is the first year of their true up. So back in 2019, attached is the memorandum of understanding is in this packet. They were charged for 62.6 RLUs at that cost of $1,875 per RLU. So using the data we have from 21, 22 and 23, the highest number of RLUs they've had is 28.4. So because it's the first true up time, they'll get a one-time refund this year of $64,125, and that refund goes to the Village of Arena, who I guess can do with it what they want.
Okay.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but how many
Yeah.
RLUs did you give Arena Cheese originally? 62?
62.6.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any questions on that part of the Arena Cheese RLUs? Okay.
Blue Heights.
One more thing with Arena Cheese is since they started discharging, the treatment plant has been.
That's a
Is this
separate
different
agenda
thing?
item.
I'm sorry, that's a separate agenda item. Wisconsin Heights. As Ben mentioned, for forever they've been charged 55 RLUs every year. We came up with 2 different methods you could potentially switch to if you wanted. So one is to keep this 55 for Wisconsin Heights, but add in 5 for Black Earth Elementary because that corresponds with what their meter size had been, and 8 for Mazomanie Elementary, so it would go up to 68 RLUs for the collective school. Alternatively, you could calculate it the same as you do significant industrial users, so how Arena Cheese and Cardinal Glass are calculated. We have that table of 2015 through 2023 of what their calculated RLUs would be. So it ranges from 8.2 during COVID up to 27.9. So that would have to be also every year. Every
So-
year it would be calculated.
So this one's a little different. It is not a connection fee. And this is just because Wisconsin Heights School District.
Did they have
has-
additional connection fees because they added the school?
No,
It's all the same meters.
correct. So, and because I wasn't here when you guys formed, so I don't know all of the backstory, but my understanding was basically because Wisconsin Heights is serving portions of the communities, it's kind of just this giant circular pot of money. Decisions were made relative to Wisconsin
That's why
Heights.
we did it, we're all
Yeah.
agreed.
So really now it's more, things have changed enough. My understanding has always been someday there was a desire to revisit Wisconsin Heights anyway, so we use this as the opportunity for, you can either keep doing it the way you did, which puts you at a recommendation of 68 RLUs, or do it consistent with your significant discharger ordinance, which you didn't have in 1998. That was invented when Cardinal
Right.
Glass came to town, which would then mean every year we recalculate in the true-up what is Wisconsin Heights' RLU for the year.
So
Wisconsin Heights doesn't get charged connection fees, so
No.
they're not adjusting them like a significant discharger.
what is done normally in other communities for something?
There's
like
not a
this
whole
with
lot of normal in this
There's-
situation.
okay.
You guys
Okay.
are unique in how you are organized.
And their flows aren't that high to call them a significant users.
Correct, yeah. And
So-
they're just different. It's
Yeah.
just using the
It just-
methodology.
it makes
Yeah.
sense, and their board should understand
Mhm.
that, hey, you close these 2 schools, this is what it was, we're adding it onto here, because now the schools are all here, this should be a straightforward deal. The 68 is the way to go.
There's arguments to be made both ways, so
Yeah.
it's whatever you
But I
guys want to
mean,
do.
you know, to call them a significant user, then you're starting to say, well, you know.
No, and we're not proposing calling them a
Right,
significant
but to
user.
treat
It's
them
just
as
using
such.
the methodology.
Yeah.
To calculate
Yeah.
it.
Now has the Grove and then whatever, I don't know what the building's called.
Those are
Have they been
removed from the
refigured
RL.
already?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, those were pulled off already.
okay. So those are already
You
refigured.
adjusted the RLU list.
We did not go down. We did not take, to my knowledge,
Well,
I don't believe the RLUs for the elementary schools has been taken off, to my knowledge.
those won't be taken off till they're disconnected, actually.
Yeah,
That's how your policies have been. So unless they are, like if there's a new owner of them,
Well, it's a new
it's
owner right
still
now.
charged the RLUs.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Is there any adjustment?
There's no
being made to
adjustment
the
that
old
needs to be made to the old
buildings?
buildings.
That's
The
all I
old
was
buildings-
asking.
and that's old enough to go back to the original numbers and they'll get changed.
The 5 and the 8.
Yeah.
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 Well, that was artificially lowered. It was higher. It's like 12. Arenas was 14. I
We
think
can look at
Maidens was
that.
12.
We can
So
look
if a
at that.
business moves in there, Would you
Well,
go back and charge them like they were not a school, like they were a normal business, or?
If it becomes a single point of use, yes. If it turns into a mixed use building, then it has to go to your mixed use RLU charges. So it depends what they do with the property.
Right, and that's up to Maisel how they want to do it.
I want to clarify something about this 5 and 8. So I got what the meter sizes are. So Black Earth is 1.5 inches, Mazomania is 2 inches, and then I just went to the city ordinances and what the RLU for that is. So there's not. This does not include any.
I'm going to propose we amend something then. So this, I did not realize that they were artificially modified. So we're going to adjust this. So just pick a methodology. We'll work it out.
Okay.
That's not gonna involve us going in and keeping track of flows or anything?
No.
Is it?
Well, option 1 wouldn't. So what Ray is proposing to take action on would not involve any of that.
All right.
Option 2 would be just at Wisconsin Heights High School. So you already
It
have
wouldn't
all
be
of
testing,
the
just getting flows.
data. You already have all the
testing.
data.
Right.
It's nothing new. It's the same data you already have.
Okay.
Cards glass. Heights does affect you.
Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion that we do what it says here.
Well, they give us two options.
Yeah. For Heights, you got to be
For
specific.
Cardinal and for Arena, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
with Arena Cheese, it doesn't only gives us one option.
Right,
And
and
with
Cardinal and
and
same.
Cardinal only gives us one. The only thing that gives us an option, and my motion says that we should use the methodology. It just, and it comes up with 68 or whatever.
Method 1. Don't be specific about numbers. We'll go back and figure out the correct numbers.
But to use that one, where we're just gonna add on the two elementaries to the Heights total.
Okay, so your motion is that we are approving
All three.
their suggestion, Cardinal Glass, their suggestion for Arena Cheese, and option 1 for the Wisconsin Heights.
Correct.
Okay. Do I get a second for that
I'll
one?
second.
Okay. Does one of our note takers have this figured
I
out?
got it.
Glad to see it, Terry.
Swooped in right
Coming in for the bullpen to save you.
Don't need
Yeah,
this.
no time off for the winter.
All right, any further discussion on the RLU trio? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you for that. The next one, discussion of possible action on quarterly testing of Arena Cheese. Again, that's you guys.
Okay, this is what I tried to jump to earlier. So it's also included in this Arena Cheese memo. Since Arena Cheese started discharging, they've been tested 3 days a week, every single week. We have some graphs in here that show what the limit is, your domestic strength limit, and what their test results have come out as. And they've hardly violated, really
It's not
ever.
violated. They've never exceeded your domestic.
Yes, excuse me. They've never exceeded. In 2022, there are occasional exceedances, but there hasn't been anything.
And that was just for 1 month, right?
That was just for 1 month. It was
Yeah,
all-
3 days they had a pump failure,
Yeah.
and then they called me and said, hey, they were
And
they were
still
forward with it
mildly over. The
Yeah,
domestic
it was
strength.
not high. So we were recommending that you do the same testing that you do for Cardinal Glass. So it would be 2 consecutive weeks every quarter.
So background for everybody is that decision was made for Cardinal Glass like 10 years ago.
Well, that's because they wouldn't let us sample. But
Well, I was partially, but like the concentrations at Cardinal Glass were always ridiculously low. Same things happening at Arena Cheese. It's been very, very stable. We have no concerns with you guys backing off just for the purposes of.
Yeah, they're putting out actually a nice quality.
and they're good. They're good corporate partners. I think.
Yes, they are, and then like Sean said, they've been
Yeah,
very
easy
forward
work,
where they had
no
a
conditions.
problem, and
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I'm on a roll. I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
So the motion and a second to edit the schedule to 2 weeks every quarter for testing for Arena Cheese.
Yeah, unless something pops up over the head, and then we can change that at the next meeting,
used it on
Right.
their sheet.
Well, that's with any of these motions,
Yeah.
yeah, we can bring it back to
Yeah.
you too.
just so we can revisit.
Okay, so it's part of your motion to revisit this next?
Oh, no,
Okay,
if,
okay.
it's just like it lays out here, if something
Right.
goes astray, if Jeff sees something
Right.
that's ugly,
Right.
then we look at
Right.
it again, but not unless that
All
happens.
right.
Now, just so, at this point then, or is everybody all right if we stop with arena cheese and because July, April, May, July would have been second quarter.
For consistency's sake, I would recommend doing it through June 30th.
Do June 30th and
July,
then start
August,
July, August,
complete,
September,
and
we'll
then
get 2 weeks out of that
Starting with
stretch.
your new budget year,
Gotcha.
you've got a whole,
Okay.
it's a very clean break.
Want to add that to your motion?
Yeah.
Starting June 30th, starting after June 30th? And Kate, you amend your second to that?
Mhm.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Number 12, discussion of possible action on 2024-2025 budgets.
Okay. That's as small as we could get to print too. We tried to go smaller. We're gonna do it.
You want us to see it though, don't you?
You know, it's
So anybody have any questions for Jeff on this?
We can make
I
this,
know it's a lot to look at in a short period of time.
we can make this quick and easy too. I make a motion that we accept the budget as presented.
Second.
All right, any further discussion?
Anything that stands out.
Well,
I'll
they've
go
got a
with
summary
your-
page. If you look like halfway in, it looks like this.
I did look at it.
And then it's got the changes and reasons for the changes next to it. So that kind of helps with anything that sticks out. But then definitely ask questions on it. Because pretty much all the stuff that's got the big changes are highlighted right there.
Yeah, we're gonna go after the ditch inspection, which is gonna involve an interesting process in emptying the outside ditch to lay eyes on the buildup of solids in the bottom. So then we can get a quote on cleaning it out, so we can come to the board without an open check to do this job, so we can have some kind of idea what's gonna cost. We got in there a rental for a pump, and that could be something, we're gonna be moving some valves that haven't been moved in a while. Yeah.
Bad.
Good luck with that.
They're underground, and we're hoping that, we can get water where we need to get it.
So we've got a motion and a second to approve the budget. Any further discussion?
So we're not doing anything like we've talked about before. We're not currently, we're gonna talk about what's coming down the pike. Nothing's right here.
All right, we don't budget, that comes out of the replacement.
Right, this is O and M, so that would be replacement,
Yeah.
future capital investment, yeah.
Thank you.
And frankly, this is, guidelines because, I tell everybody, the simplest bookkeeping system in the world, the cost of the cost, and we all split it up. And if there's 1 penny left over at the end of the year, you just guys gotta figure out a way to split it up between it.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Lucky number 13, discussion of possible action on the facilities plan cost estimates.
All right, so I'm gonna start just running through a couple things with this. We can dive into the nuts and bolts of this as much as you guys wanna. I guess to begin with, mostly for you, Terry, and it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
The-
Terry, this is Ben
Yep.
and Lisa from Town of Front.
Hi.
So facilities plan, big picture, it's a 20-year look. It's a planning level document. It's not setting a bid, it's not setting anything like that, but it's a 20-year plan for your facility. It's a regulatorily required item. If you plan to do any reviewable projects reviewable projects by the DNR. So you have to have this done prior to being able to submit to DNR. And really what they're looking for is that you've given forethought to those reviewable projects and you know kind of what the horizon of potential growth is. So this has been a very long drawn out process because it also got delayed due to some high flows in Arena and mysterious loadings in Nagamani. This was kind of picked back up last fall, and so now this is the removing forward of the cost evaluation portion of it. So did population projections, did flow and loading projections, big picture, the plant itself has adequate capacity for the future needs from all of the communities. Each one of the communities' lift stations does have some capacity concerns from a peak flow standpoint, and that really relates to wet weather events similar to what happened in 2018, 2019 timeframe. You guys never had any situations where your lift stations were actually over inundated. However, they were exceeding capacity because a lift station's design is meant to be such that you always could live without one of your pumps. So if you have 3 pumps, you have to be able to do what the design capacity of the station is with only 2 of them. You know, each of your lift stations only have 2 pumps, so that means technically you have to always be ready in the event of one of those pumps being out of service. So all 3 of the lift stations do need some capacity upgrades. But beyond that, the approach that we took here was looking at over the next 20 years, what are things that would need to be addressed. I'll also say within all of this, there is a preliminary breakdown, I would say, and I'm going to call it very rough in terms of high, low priority based on some conversations Jeff and Sean and we had. It's really more group by group, so within each one of them we can kind of micro prioritize. That's a future step. More wanting to just get this in front of you guys from a discussionary standpoint. So went through the entire facility, and I'll kind of summarize each item, but looking at, it's not necessarily that it needs to be done today, but anticipating that, you know, some of these things are not going to last another 20 years. You want to get DNR approval for those things to be replaced in the future, even if you want to. There's also some code things that are addressed in here that in 1997 and 1998, when this facility was designed and built, the codes were not the same as what the codes are today. So there's design standards for basements and egress and things like that, that depending on the level of improvement you do, and how you tack it, could be needed. So we tried to address some of those.
Not that it has to be.
Yep, agreed. So, but if you're going to put together a number like this, you want to make sure you've got a comprehensive number on that. The last thing I'll say, and I'm going to point at the back of your packets, we have a graph here. I think I've talked about this before, but this does a decent job putting some numbers to it, is the numbers are shocking. I will admit, I wasn't expecting this to be an $18 million estimate.
Oh, hell, it's $2 million less than I thought it would be. Oh, I figured you'd knock us for 20. But.
Nice job. I didn't. But what we've observed in all construction industry over the last 3 years specifically is crazy influences. So the graph is just meant to give people kind of an indicator. It's nothing special. It's a datum on January 1st, 2000. The bottom line is the published inflationary cost consumer price index. The second line, the top line, is a construction cost index that is a published set of values that picks a fixed number of 2x4s, a fixed number of 4x8 sheets of plywood, whatever. It's got a fixed number. What is the cost each year? I, just for visual purposes, because it's not a real statistic, put on top of it what we generally assume in terms of our cost estimates for water, wastewater specifically. So the black line is construction as a whole. Doesn't matter, just commercial, residential, everything. The sector in which water, wastewater construction inside the fence of a treatment plant would be considered as industrial construction. So it's a subset of commercial construction, and water, wastewater is further a subset of that industrial construction. So if you have a contractor that builds a cheese plant, those are the same types of contractors that build a wastewater plant, but it's kind of like a square and a rectangle. every industrial contractor doesn't necessarily bid on water wastewater work. There's about 3 to 5 on any given job, day, sky's a project that'll bid for the entire state of Wisconsin. So all of those points are, we see a pretty healthy increase in construction costs as compared to the normal. I would say on average it's about 10% a year cost increase. That was just exploded in 2022 and 2023 to the point where I estimate it was about 60% increase that we saw from one year to the next on a large project. Something like this, if you were to tackle all of this in one shot, something like that. For a small project like a well house, it was more like 100%. And the one example I'll give is we bid a well house in the village of Arlington, very modest size, 1,000 feet of water main, in 2021 or early 22, I can't remember exact time frame. That was $1.1 million. In 12 months later, for the village of Cross Plains, we bid their well 2, which is, again, it's not a huge Taj Mahal of a building, very small, similar size, similar scope project. That was $2.15 million, 12 months apart. Just blew us off our chairs. So these cost estimates that we're going to go through, they're reflective of calibrations we've done to what the market conditions we saw over the last 12 months are, which are way higher than they were 18 months ago. So, any questions on that before we just dive in? Do you guys want to dive in step by step? Ray says no. Anyone else? I'm going to keep it high level and just hit a couple of them. So, general assumptions we made for any building, it includes some generic architectural rehabilitation, roofs, doors, windows. Because sometime in the next 20 years, you're going to be up to 40 to 45 year age on all of those. Roofs are probably the highest priority of those general architectural things.
Saw a shingle in the backyard the other day. First time I've seen one off a roof here.
They're 24-year-old roofs.
Yeah, but it's a 40-year roof, so.
Yeah, that's not a true thing.
There are no 40-year shingles.
Yep. For all of the lift stations, the general assumption is new pumps, because all of them are needed new pumps in order to both increase capacity, but also just due to age. New valves, new electrical equipment, new HVAC, and a new generator. Those can be in varying priority. Pumps would likely be the highest priority. Sampling equipment would be the highest priority. SCADA and controls would be high priority. Electrical equipment could get more years out of it. Those are a little bit iffy on electrical equipment because when we increase the size of the pumping, depending on exactly what size motors we end up needing there, we may need the electrical equipment to be upgraded. So that's a generic assumption across all of them. From a site standpoint out here, not a whole lot happening. Piping, capacities, underground stuff we're assuming is all in generally good condition. At some point you'll have to repave the entire site. That's included within the estimates. And then also, the next one I'll talk about is headworks. The headworks is needing a lot of work. Part of that is we've got cost in the site work to put some bypass piping in so that you're not paying. Number one, we think it's going to be cheaper in the long run compared to a contractor having to bypass pump the headworks for the entire duration of a rehabilitation. But then also you have the ability to take the headworks out of service again in the future if we put permanent piping in. So there's bypass piping for both force mains to go around the headworks, go straight into the oxidation ditch for a period that you might take that down. Headworks, it's in rough shape. Lots of corrosion issues. I think we talked about last time we were here, we had our structural engineer come out. So that this includes some very involved concrete rehabilitation and basically full equipment replacement. That building is just it sees the brunt of all of the corrosion. It's the raw wastewater coming in. It's in rough shape. Oxidation ditch, basically it's everything Jeff described earlier as to why we need to do the inspection. Valves, gates, aerators, the remaining aerators. Final clarifiers doesn't have a whole lot with it. Those a little further out because we repainted them, whatever it was, 7 years ago, something like that. UV, planning on full equipment replacement. There's not a whole lot else happening there. Did I say something wrong?
No,
No,
just
I couldn't believe it.
one of those, holy cow, that was 7 years.
Yeah. Solids handling building, that one includes the most. There's an assumption that basically anything that moves in there is being replaced. Some of that is higher priority than others. From our standpoint, your solids treatment is the highest priority in that building. You know, you've got lots of redundancy and pumping down below. Those can be a little lower priority. Waste receivings, again, equipment. Sludge storage building, predominant, that includes the chemical pumping, so it'd be all of your chemical equipment getting replaced. And some modifications to the drainage system in the sludge storage building. And then this building, including just general architectural rehabilitation over time, most of it focused on lab and plumbing stuff. I'll also say within this, right now, the estimate assumes you're maintaining your own private water system. We've talked about it a little bit before. We're going to talk about it more with Jeff's exhibit and talking about the water here, but we've assumed that the well itself is going to get rehabilitated. We assume that the bladder tanks will be replaced. You've done some work on them, but they're corroding. They're reaching the end of their useful life. Combined across the board from a water system improvement standpoint, the estimate includes about $200,000 worth of effort. We did do an estimate for what would it take for you guys to connect to Mazamani, and that is about $350,000 if we take a water main from basically where Cardinal Glass is to here.
But then we're done with the well.
You eliminate the well, you eliminate the liabilities with the well, because if you're out of water here, you have no ability to process anything. You can run the wastewater plant, but you cannot process a drop of solids. So, Ben's personal opinion, there's some merit to connecting. There's a reliability component to connecting to Mazamani. It does cost more. If it was something you guys were interested in, we could also cost out what would the cost of putting a second well be in, or putting a second well in be, which kind of creates, you keep your same system, you just then create redundancy out in your yard for a second well. It's probably going to be roughly equal to Mazamani at that point. The concern we have long-term here is at some point you've got to rehabilitate that well. It has to happen. It's not been pulled in 25 years. When you do that, you're going to be out of water for, if you're lucky, a couple weeks. Depending on how bad it is, if there's a lot of corrosion that has happened in the well column, it could be more.
We had some piping replaced years and years ago.
Yeah,
PCW came in.
and we had that well inspected.
That was a one-day deal,
But
it was in and out.
in the last 5 years, we've had that well looked at.
No, we haven't. We've had the system in here.
Yeah.
It was, we didn't go into the well, we
You
went
didn't
into
pull the
the
well.
control panel
Right.
of it. But the
Right.
well was
At
not
that
full.
time, it was assessed. Anyway, the number one priority, as I see it, is we're gonna need a new press. And it takes a year or more and they cost $1 million. We need to get one on order.
Can't until this is done.
But I mean,
Yeah. Yep. I would put the press, and I would put SCADA at the tops of the list, because right now your SCADA system is
true.
about 10 years obsolete.
Yeah.
But
But the press puts us out of business.
Yep.
If Jeff can't
You can't run the
go
press.
down
then
and
it's-
coerce that into going again, we're out of business. Then we're shipping stuff. Now you wanna talk about spending money.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that. In terms of
And,
priorities, so
however, we need to take it out of that. I mean, looking at 18 million for the whole plant, I see it as a completely separate issue. Because I see this as a 20-year plan, just like you pointed out.
yeah.
But that's a number one, we need to, if we could get one in a year.
Right, and that's why we're doing this now, so we can
So-
get to that point.
And I guess as I look at it, I would agree with you, the press, I would say the SCADA. I would lump in the headworks.
Yes.
That, when we started digging into that, that was in worse shape.
Yeah, that
than
building's
it's
in pretty bad shape.
It's to the point where some of the concrete, if we started poking at it with a hammer, we'd find rebar. It's in rough shape. So I think there's probably, I'm going to say, between those and, you know, I think Arena's lift station, for example, is probably in that high priority category because the lift station upgrades that you guys did, whatever, it was, 2 years
Overtaxed our
ago.
ability to take it. So-
Yeah, so right
So it
now,
was over-designed.
there was an under-designing component to Arena's lift
Right.
stations.
But because of their
Hoping that
over-design,
this-
ours is
yeah.
now under-designed.
Correct. So that becomes a priority. I think really pumps and controls for all 3 of the lift stations, or I guess 4 of them once you add in heights, is in that high priority category. So you're probably zeroing in on a $4 to $5 million high priority category, would be what I would estimate. So I guess wanting to start this conversation,
So Ben, what do we need to do tonight, and what are the next
I
steps,
guess
so we can get to the point that
what-
we can
What
start?
I'd like feedback from you guys on is 18 million is a scary number. No bones about it. Did I say any of the scope stuff that horribly offends you? Do you guys want us and Jeff and Sean and to go back and create that? What is the super high priority list? What is the medium? Like, I've kind of got some notes together of super high, medium, low priority. We can break that down and then have another discussion next month
Yeah,
about it.
and then frankly,
And then-
some of these are just numbers.
Yep.
You know, I'd like to know what flushes them out. I mean, you know.
Well, and I would pose, in the situation you're in, we're not evaluating alternatives. It's just
No,
we
no,
create
I-
high, medium, low priority. We can put rate impact with them. We can talk about funding, and then it's more. This creates the ability for you to do those projects 5 years from now or 10 years from now in the future. So what I would view this turning into is we're going to make this high priority list. That's going to be the urgent thing that you pursue a project for. $4 to $5 million. You know, we're going to have to start working with the communities. We're going to have to look at, you know, how are you going to pay for it?
Yeah,
all
and
those
then how
types of
much,
things.
you know, what's the impact on the
And what's the
ratepayer?
rate
I need to
impact?
know that too, you know.
Yep.
long-
So we need to break down the pieces of the pie first, and then we can say, well, here's what the rate impact for 1 is, 2 is, and 3 is.
You're talking rates, though, that we're charging the communities.
To the communities.
Right.
The communities are going to
Communities
have
are
to
the
look
ones
at
who
their
decide
own
what
individual
gets
cash
charged.
flows.
No, but we're going to charge the community.
Yes.
This is
That's
going to
what I'm
mean
saying.
that we got
Right.
to raise rates.
Yeah, that's why I just want to confirm.
And before I could consciously go to anything, I'd have to know what that number is.
Right,
Yes.
and that's
And
what
that's
we're working on.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be my proposal is we work with Jeff and the boys to come up with
A solid priority.
1, 2, 3 level priority. You know, we've got a rough in of that right now. Next month we can talk about that again. If you guys have questions about scope or, you know, after having processed this, you know, we can get the first go, because I'm going to ask a question. I'm assuming any project, let's say it's $5 million. We're going to follow the 1998 RLU breakdown of this. So any debt or capital expense that you incur is going to be divided amongst the communities based on RLUs.
Yep.
That's my assumption. So it's going to be very easy to come up with, here's what the dollars per year impact is for each community and a percentage increase that relates to. Very easy to come up with those numbers. So next month we can sit down and talk about that. And then you guys can decide if you want to act at that point, want more information, what have you. Again, my intent with this is you're going to have an all-encompassing facilities plan. You're going to choose, we may want to do this, that, or the other thing first, second, third, and in what order and how you tackle those. Steps after that, you know, we'll have to finish the report. This report will go to the DNR. DNR is going to take 9 to 12 months to approve it. It's just the rate at which those things happen. Doesn't mean you guys can't start working on getting a press design, SCADA system design, headworks design. but it's going to take them 9 to 12 months. Parallel to that, we're going to have an intermunicipal meeting. Because you guys aren't going to be able to borrow for something like this without the community's buy-in. Because you can't borrow for something like this. The communities have to borrow for something like this. We're also going to have a public hearing associated with this. So that's part of the requirements of the facility.
Is that each community, or are we talking one big meeting
We
with
can,
all
we
the
can
communities?
do, for a public hearing, we can do it as one thing for hosted here, and it just gets posted in your communities, and whoever wants to show up, shows up. From an intermunicipal steps standpoint, I guess I would throw that back to the 7 of you for thought, is how you want to approach it with your communities. We can have individual meetings where this information gets presented in more of a finalized format, late summer, early fall time frame, to get people started on it, and then at some point thereafter do a 3 communities plus commission meeting. Or we can just start with a 3 communities plus commission, so everyone's sitting in the same room, they all hear the same thing at the same time, and then we have another one because nobody's going to absorb it as fast as we want them to. There's no rules related to that.
Okay.
However, we all think the best communication pathway for something like this is. In order to move forward with an actual project, getting into design, get it permitted, get it bid, we will have to have action eventually by those communities in order to figure out how this is going to be funded. If it's funded via some sort of a private borrowing, let's say, I'll have to go back through your intermunicipal agreements, but I think you guys have some authority. If you go through the state revolving fund, clean water fund, DNR money, this room actually isn't even a party to those borrowing. It's each of the individual communities.
And that's what
So we'll have to re-up the intermunicipal agreement with some sort of an amendment to get concurrence from the communities to fund something like that.
Ben, can I ask a question? Back you up a little bit. Is that okay? You're going to base any project cost, future cost in municipalities on the 1998 RLU data, you said?
Methodology. The
Okay.
data would be based on current.
Current.
Yeah.
But the methodology
Yeah,
you're
so
going
it'd
to
be
use.
the same
like Candy would use.
methodology
Okay.
that the historic debt payments have been made on, and what you are still doing your FCI borrowing, or not
Okay.
borrowing, FCI allocations based upon.
So what do you need us to do tonight?
0. Unless you give me comments. That's really it.
I think I'd see a lot of nodding heads, but I like the idea of the 1, 2, 3 priorities so that we know kind of what we're looking at, numbers to go with it, and kind of get an idea.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he's laid out what we need to do.
Well, what they need to do. Yeah. Okay, any other questions for Ben? Otherwise, we can move on to the next agenda item. Number 14, discussion of possible action on administrative building water.
This is, we came in one morning, it's been several months ago now, and right outside the bathroom, we had water coming through, and we had pinholes in this chunk of pipe that had to be replaced. And what they found was, if you look through here, I'm gonna pass this around, but you'll see a sediment built up, and it managed to eat through the copper. And we had a water softener come apart here a year and a half.
No, about a year.
A year, okay, and replaced. But what we have found, we've had it plug up filters in the lower building, is the sediment, or not sediment, the media inside the water softener got turned loose through our system.
Anywhere it settled out, it corroded.
Yes, and this is the first time it reared its ugly head.
We had a leak right away, that's what tipped it to us, and that's the leak. You've only had one leak, right?
Correct.
That's it.
But
A month ago,
there's-
you showed that to us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah,
I was
it's
gonna
not
say.
new.
Yeah,
So
Yeah, we discussed it.
yeah, this has been around
Yeah,
once.
this is because the media sat there.
Yep. But,
Well, yeah, so I was going to add to it. So we took a look at it. I think that ultimately, and we work with a company out of Mount Horeb called Water Quality Investigations on water quality issues quite frequently, and he does a variety of testing for building plumbing issues, and talked through some of this with him. And if you look at it, that was like, let's see, like you've got the leak. You can see it on the outside wherever it is, right here. So the leak is right there, but when you look inside, you can actually see, like even right here, there's another hole that was imminently going to leak right there that hadn't started yet. And so when we talked to him about it, he pointed out, this is a pretty common thing for commercial building plumbing to have happen, where, it may not and probably wasn't actually the softener media itself chewing through the metal, but that softener media provided additional sites for bacteria to grow. And what is actually happening there is that's microbially induced corrosion, is what they call it. So what ends up happening is it's bugs growing. They're not germs, but they're microbiology and bacteria that grow, and then they end up using copper pipe as a host. So they're basically mining nutrients out of the copper pipe. Very much so. So what the scary part of it is this is probably not isolated, probably not localized to this section of pipe. It's probably all through this building. So we're anticipating anywhere there's copper pipe, it's going to end up having to be replaced sometime in the future, because you're just going to, there's no fixing that. And over time, the problem's going to continue to get worse, likely, because it's basically, there's enough ammonia, dissolved carbon, whatever, in the drinking water, in the well water here, that it's allowing bacteria to grow, but it's not enough that it meets all of their nutrient needs, and so they start to dissolve copper pipe to mine out those nutrients. I guess thoughts moving forward is, you can just let it go. You can replace the pipe just leave it. And every time a leak springs, you replace that section of pipe, and eventually you'll either replace the entire building or we'll get to a project and we decide to replace it anyway. We could also look at a more proactive approach, talking with this water quality investigations outfit. There are tests that you can run to determine the efficacy of some improvements that you make, and kind of try and diagnose, is the problem more in my piping? Is it in my well? Like, where is the source of the nutrients necessary to grow those bacteria coming from, to try and address it at the source? He can come in and do a study, a full-blown study, probably something like 15 grand. He can do some testing for you that's an indicator for 5 to 10 grand. Again, or you just let it, you fix the pipe as it breaks, and eventually we replace all of it, but then realistically...
Is there a treatment option?
The real, it's not like hardness or, that you have excessive TOC, where it's, like you get up in the central sands, some places you'll get like, I call it chewy water, but basically like tannins and whatnot in your water. It's not that, it's parts per billion, just enough for bacteria to grow, but just enough that the bacteria are looking for something more. What is some potential solutions that are both preemptive and semi-reactive is, if you start replacing larger parts of the building, commercial building code specifically kind of sets you up for failure in some of this stuff, because the piping gets quite oversized. So some of the things that Andy, the owner of this water quality investigations, proposes is shrink the pipe. You don't need a 2-inch pipe feeding a lab when you're only running one sink at a time, even though there's 4 sinks in there. And so plumbing code would say you need to design for those 4 sinks. Put a 3/4-inch line in there instead of and that way the velocities in the pipe are more. It's moving faster and kind of keeping it turbulent more often. Another thing you can do kind of preemptively is there's such a thing as flushing building plumbing. You can do it yourself just by opening all of the spigots and getting the velocities as fast as possible. There's also some more specialized approaches where you can get, typically it's one of the larger plumbing companies, but they'll come in and they'll do a customized flushing plan where they're focusing on a specific pipe and they'll actually introduce air into your pipe plumbing. And so as the water's flowing, they'll put bursts of air in to create turbulence and kind of clean the pipe, take the aerator off of a sink or whatever and just run it and burst air through it until it comes out clear. So, you can just do those things. One concern I've got with that is you don't know how much it's improving anything unless you've got some before and after background.
Then that's the same way with your study.
Sure.
Roll your sleeves up, charges $20,000.
And
That's
to
what
be
a
clear,
study is.
it's not Ben. I could care less if you do a study. If you want to do just cleaning, do cleaning. I'm a big proponent of know if you fix something. And if you just flush, you're not going to know. But if you don't want to spend $5 or $10,000 on testing, that's fine.
We did the rudimentary flushing. We opened everything up, let it go. I would like if we could push it out. And by the way, we drink this water every day. So I wouldn't mind it being tested for my health. I do drink it. You drink it. You drink it.
Yeah, but we can do that with a water test. You're not, what they're.
We can.
Yeah.
Just
I'm
for
not-
safe
I'm
drinking
not
water,
saying
you're
we gotta
right,
go there
man.
either.
We can't.
I mean, it's safe water.
Yep.
Yeah.
We know that.
But to get the rest of that crap out of there, because we had to go out, and then all of a sudden, 6 months later, then all of a sudden we were plugged up again.
Yep.
So
And now it hasn't happened in a while.
It hasn't happened in
It
a
hasn't
while.
happened since then.
And it may not happen.
But it's in the hydrants. It's literally it's everywhere.
It's
yeah.
really done some, it was, for a while, we were fighting it in the basement of 60.
Oh, sure.
But it seems
Any
to
place
be
the water
better now.
goes, it went.
It's flushed.
And when we looked at it, I told you it was media the first night.
Ben,
Because nothing in nature creates that smooth.
Ben, if we do these studies, 2 different options of studies, is there something that can be done once we know what the situation is, or is it just, yeah, you've got this problem and you're gonna have to replace pipes?
The $15,000 study, what I would anticipate is it's going to point either your problem's coming from your well or your problem's coming from your water in a building here, like just the piping in the building. The cheaper one, 5 to 10, I would pose is more, I would think of a before and after. So we'd focus on anticipating you guys are going to do something, whether that's pull the well and have it rehabilitated or do a more formal flushing of your building plumbing here, do it before and after just to know that it actually did something.
What if we switched from copper to
PEX.
or PVC or something?
That problem goes away then too.
As we
Yeah.
redo lots of the stuff, that's what should happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is the
We
piping
should
in the walls
eliminate
or
copper,
exposed
whatever,
out?
we get the opportunity.
Exposed.
But to go in and just strip it out and throw it away, it makes no sense at all.
Nick Norm's asking a question.
Is the plumbing exposed?
It's a
Or
combo. There's not much in the walls.
No, it's
No,
So it could be
mostly
the drop.
above
There's a lot
yeah,
above the drop
the
ceiling
drop ceiling.
because it's all in the room right over here. Then it comes up overhead, distributes when it gets out in the garage. It's exposed. I expect the sink drops are probably in wall. I don't know that for sure.
Yeah, they are.
wouldn't we be better off, and I know Dr. Jack a little bit, fairly well, wouldn't we be better off replacing it, spending that money on?
At some point, you're going to have to anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So we're replacing it without a test or something.
Well, the well water is going to be problematic. I mean, it's not like it's, but
Right.
it's
Yeah.
That's where it's at.
yeah, and then it's with the hose pipe, it's a bad combo, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, switching to a PEX or some sort of a plastic pipe would address it. Honestly, metal pipe, like just a non-copper. The ductile iron pipe that's in the water main on the site isn't going to have corrosion issues because that's not. It's a copper specific thing that happens.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, Jeff? Your softener, is that just soften hot water or soften
Yep,
cold?
softens the hot water.
And cold or just hot?
think it's.
I believe it's just hot.
Just hot, but,
Yep.
and that's why we couldn't figure out what was in all those
Right.
hydrants.
Yeah, but it got into cold water, it
Yeah,
got
somehow
in,
it
it
got
got
That's,
in the,
well, if, yeah, that's
building
where it's gonna
water
get
down
in
below,
cold.
and that's just bearing cooling water. And
Yeah.
that goes to all the pumps in the basement of 60, and they have a sock filter that we replace regularly. And
Is it just a
I literally,
polypropylene
we had to
filter, or
tear a
is
couple
it?
of those out because that black media plugged the line up.
Yep.
And you say that doesn't happen with plastic?
Well, the media
It's still
is a different thing.
Yeah, that's replaced now, so that's
Right,
gonna happen with it.
and that has
But
passed.
the reaction that you see in there won't happen with plastic.
And some of that's based on flat spots, you know, where you don't have enough flow and the stuff gets to settle out. If it has enough pitch, then it doesn't happen. And all the stuff that has enough pitch, it's fine.
So if like hypothetically a plastic replaces the copper, have there been like any longevity studies, like say for example on PEX?
I haven't run into any. I mean, it's generally a similar life expectancy to a normal copper situation. You know, this is more of a common thing in commercial plumbing than it is in residential plumbing because you get more usage around your house than you do in a commercial setting like this.
Mm-hmm.
Sean has his favorite sink, and that's why this is happening.
Elton's got a dishwasher.
Say Jeff had his favorite urinal.
No, but my favorite urinal, it doesn't use for me.
It's that dead tree.
That's
Okay.
All right.
So what would the commission like to do?
Punt it down the road. I say, let's see if we have more problems.
That's an option as
I
well.
mean, this was happened at least a few months ago that I remember.
But no,
It was-
it's been 5 months ago. I
Yeah.
It was back when I was
and-
still here.
And that's one event
What?
in 5 months without any. I don't
Oh,
think we need to
hey,
pull a pin and do anything today.
I don't think today.
And we don't need Dr. Dave
Because I
either.
was clearing it up with you when you first showed up.
Could we get a price on replacing the piping? As part of,
And when we're talking replacing copper, we just go with the admin building, and we wouldn't deal with
You don't,
60
I don't think you have much copper down to 60, do you?
feet.
I'd have to
All
look at it
the,
again. Anything,
not a lot, not a lot,
No.
and it's all exposed, so it's
Yeah.
very easy to get at.
See, and that's right. If you're gonna do a stick, then do the whole stick the length of the room or something.
Right.
You know, replace it as you go.
Down there would be easy. Here, not so
Yeah.
much, but yeah.
Well, I mean, in here, drop the ceiling and you could replace a whole bunch of it at one time.
If we do, as Ray Solemnly said, put it down the road, I'd like to give these guys direction that in case we do get a leak, do we want them to replace it with copper? Or do we want them to replace like the whole length of it with plastic as we go, so that they know what to do?
I think we ought to eliminate the copper that exists today as it comes up. Biggest chunk as you can take out, replace it.
And that gives them some direction in case
Yeah.
tomorrow they come in
Right.
and it's raining in here,
Right.
so.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, then
Well, we
and
haven't
that's
made a
just
motion
level
yet.
pipe. I mean, if you go that route, say we come in tomorrow and 10 feet down from where this one was,
If there's another leak.
then your suggestion or an option for us would be to replace the entire, the down not so much, you think, or no?
I would replace everything you can.
Everything you could
It's-
get at in that line?
Anywhere it's going slow, the bugs are going to grow. It's going to be more propensity on a horizontal section, and that's why you see it at the bottom of the pipe there, is because if there's a little bit of
Yeah.
sediment, that's just a growth spot for those ammonia oxidizing bacteria.
And if the plumber would have used his little level and got a little more pitch to it, it might not have happened at all.
I would replace this,
think
when
the
you have a
warranty's out
problem,
for it.
replace as much as you could.
Okay, so is that a motion?
But what would you replace it with?
I'm not a.
There's some problem
I-
sometimes. You can't just take a piece of copper out of the middle of a big copper pipe and replace it with plastic easily.
Well, and that's
So
what I was
They have to
wondering
go from
too.
joint to joint or from fixture to fixture. I think to let the plumber tell you what to do when he gets there. We can't decide, we can't see it.
Are they either gonna use, they're gonna use PVC most likely, or HDPE, or?
When they,
They'll use, yeah, I think once you get above 3/4, if I'm not mistaken, you stop using PEX and you go to PVC or CPVC Schedule 80.
Yeah, yeah.
and that's what they replace all this with, is, you know, PVC to the other one. The other one.
Okay, is there a motion out there?
And the plumbers
Don't
would
think
know,
they
the plumber would know.
Yeah. Yeah, this is just more of a directive to the.
Right.
Okay. Any other comments? We'll move on. Discussion and possible action on CMAR approval.
And the CMAR is our annual report to the DNR that you got it there in front of you. Goes through pretty much every aspect of the business. Collection systems, influent, effluent loadings, financial, personnel, certifications.
And Terry, just as a kind of familiarization, this is similar to what the village, your village does also. We all do CMARs, but we don't have a plan, so they're a lot simpler to do than this.
We had no violations the entire year of '23.
There, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben, Lisa, thank you.
Take care.
Okay, we've done this every year. I move to approve and have Bob and Peter sign it and get on with our day.
All right, can we get a second on that
I'll
one?
second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Great job.
Super job. All right.
Push
Now,
out
I think
trouble
Bob
here.
has said.
Yeah.
Next, discussion and possible action on double payment to commission. We have Mr. Honesty Norm to thank us for this.
Well, I caught it, like I said, but I thought it was just the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
part
yeah,
of the
you
month and
caught
the
it.
second part of the month. Because it's not tied to the meeting, so.
So, but
We
when,
did pay you 2 in a row. and
yeah.
we-
when we're doing payroll, they only did the payment to the commission, 2 payrolls in a row. So basically, the last one you got is for this month, and so
Right.
that's how we'll remedy it. Norm was the one that pointed out right away. I didn't even notice it. When I got my check, my second check, I didn't even notice it. So thank you, Norm, for pointing it out. And then Ray pointed it out before the meeting.
I draw my checks, I want to know.
So, but I asked him to put it on the agenda so that all you guys are aware of what's going on.
One row of the checks come out in the future, not that I care, just,
They always come out to payroll after the meeting.
okay, and it's gonna continue that way.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Except for last time. We decided to double it.
Yeah.
It was good practice.
All right, discussion of possible action on monthly stipend. So this is again another update to check in, see where we're at in the plan.
Is it next month when the budget, now that we've.
July 1st, the new budget year.
Yeah,
Yep. And I know last meeting we discussed, we didn't make any motions towards that, but we were thinking that this would be the last month.
yeah,
June would be the last month doing it
yeah,
because of the raises involved and feeling we're at a level
right.
that it warrants it.
Well, that's how I still feel.
Is that a motion from you?
Yeah,
So this will be the last month?
yep.
And a second?
Second.
I think I heard Bob.
That's
Bob,
yeah.
Second, sorry.
So, any further discussion? And so this will not come back unless somebody requests it to go on an agenda. All right.
So the June payment will be the last payment?
Yep.
Correct.
Okay.
So, any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Number 18, May 2024, Dane-Iowa wastewater facility report. Jeff?
Yeah, the numbers don't really, the main numbers don't really reflect how well the plant's running right now. It is singing. Our numbers are fantastic. We've got phosphorus cut back to 1.5, which last month we were here was on 4.
Fair, yeah.
I'm sorry, ferric chloride to fight phosphorus. We've got that down back to 1.5, which is, I believe our low, well, we've been at 1.
Yeah, we've been at 1 before.
Yeah.
We could probably get there.
Well, 1.5 is a nice low setting for us, and like I say, the plant, the bugs under the microscope, everything's just really looking nice.
Good job. Any questions for Jeff? No one else, I have one. The gloves and nasal, you haven't seen them again?
We have not noticed them, no. We have not had our head back in there. In all honesty, been buried in the office. And with this coming to a head, it's going to allow us to get out and actually physically run the plant and do some projects that we want to get done. Actually looking forward to doing that. There's some nice jobs out there. That being another one, readdressing that. That we got into because it actually plugged the pump on,
Right.
which is how we discovered that. So
Just curious if it's starting to come back again, or if that was just a
yeah,
one-shot deal.
and actually, we want to get back over there. I can't say it's gone. I can say we haven't plugged the pump up again.
Okay.
And then Jeff, you mentioned the other day, just as a side note, that you're keeping an eye on our waste haulers coming in because of some disruption.
When they're all aware that we were struggling, and we made them aware that it's possible they were part of it, and good group of people. They're real workable. They're calling every time before they bring a load now. So if we say no, they do not have a problem with it. We've also gone to turning the pump off and aerating it in our holding tank, which breaks it down a little more, makes it a little less toxic. So we're taking a few measures. Fortunately, it's been a week and a half since we've even seen one, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe Hogan was here last week.
Yeah.
My only point
It's
is,
really backed off.
as I said, what we get paid by waste haulers coming in here is insignificant to the big picture. So if there's any kind of a problem at all, Jeff needs the authority just to say, nah,
Right.
we're done with
We
this.
kicked it around.
Yeah.
We're kind of curious. Bring some more in. Let's see. I mean, it affected our running, but we didn't violate. Knock on wood. But
Yeah.
it's kind of it got us curious as to how that would affect us again. If it would affect us in the same way, because it could be coincidence. You can't definitely point it to septic haulers. This place runs a lot better in the summer. It's
And that time change usually gets us. Summer, like once you hit fall, it gets a little wonky. Spring gets a little wonky.
Yeah,
It
the
wants to
temperature
stay.
change.
Yeah, the temperature of the water.
bugs don't like it.
Yeah.
So it
But
could
we
be
had,
a
in years past, we had a particular hauler that we had problems with. And the fact he didn't pay us ended the association.
That was a
But
bad
we were
relationship.
talking about ending the association anyway. He was bringing hot loads.
Yeah, now, of course, they turn in a sample of each load. If it's questionable, we'll run some tests on it, but
Yeah, we don't have the holding capacity to test
we
each
got about
of
20,000 gallons holding, and, it doesn't take long to put 20,000 gallons in there.
Anyway, great job, Jeff.
This is
And
from
Sean.
septage from private.
It's A1, Hogan, and Richardson are the 3 septic haulers that nobody else comes in here. We just took on A1, and fortunately, they've been very scant. And again, they call before they come, and if it's a problem, they are okay with it.
We're not the cheapest place to dump. They're not going to see.
Yeah, we're $18 a thousand on holding, and $59 a thousand on septic.
Yeah.
I don't think we've changed our rates in 20 years.
Not
I
20
wouldn't-
years.
I would
So
be
we would most
opposed
likely-
to making that an agenda item in the near future to maybe jack that up a little bit.
Whenever
Yeah,
you
I don't
feel-
mind it offending them where they don't want to come wouldn't bother us at all.
As I said, in the big picture, what we get paid in a year's time from the haulers isn't worth the time and the effort it takes.
No.
It's more of a
Right.
service than
And as a service to the whole industry,
And-
it's something that
Yeah.
unfortunately is gonna get tougher for those guys.
And if one of the villages is working on a lift station project like happened with us in Arena, and we have to haul here, that's a different deal altogether, because we're just.
This will be an agenda item
Doesn't matter who
next
hauls it
meeting,
in.
and we can talk about it. Any other questions for Jeff? Informational items, I have one thing, not really informational, but I want to catch people before they leave. We have the signature cards, Terry and I have already signed them, so I need Kate and I need Bob to sign them before you guys leave. There's like 5 sheets, so if you'd sign them, please, before you leave, that would be great. That's the only thing I got to add.
And then, are you getting them back to Derek, or do you want me to drop them off?
They
That's
still
where
need
they go
to be, they
next.
still need to be filled out for Terry. You said you were gonna do that.
Yes.
If you want me to drop them off to Derek, I can. You can drop them off at the office next time you come for signatures, or you can drop it off yourself.
I'll probably be doing a deposit here next week, so I
Okay.
can drop them off.
Not that it's necessarily formal before the meeting adjourns, but we'd like to introduce everybody to Mitchell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, please.
Has everybody met Mitchell? Has anybody not met Mitchell?
Hi, Mitchell.
Hey.
I hadn't met him.
This is Mitchell Travis, and you know,
So,
A couple familiar faces, yeah.
it's nice having Mitchell around. He throws something out, and possible he'll know the dog's name. So it's kind of nice.
Your dad is
He's
Larry?
got a hometown.
What's
guy.
that?
Your dad is Larry?
Yes. Yep. Larry and
They worked at the hardware store for 10 years, and your dad used to come in there fairly often.
yeah.
He worked for, when he still does,
He used to work over here, Roundy's, but now
Yeah.
Kroger.
okay,
Yeah, he's no longer there. He's pretty much retired now.
okay. He just came regularly in there.
Yeah.
I'm Norm Hotman, I'm from the village of Black Earth, along with Terry.
Okay.
I forgot to say the honest Norm Holland.
That was just a questioning, Norm
his
Hotman.
reputation precedes him.
You could have done air quotes right there, you know.
Oh, I would do that to Norm. Do you know everyone else, Mitchell?
Yep. I know everyone else.
Okay. Cool, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
All three of you guys,
Yeah.
thanks for all the work you've been putting
Yeah.
in. I really appreciate it.
I'd like to say that I like how things are running here, just from my past experience. We've got a more inclusive crew. I just like the way things are. We're cross-training more, able to take over each other's. Sean's been huge in the office, as you guys know. I like what's
Good.
I like what's
Yeah,
going
it's
on.
looking really good. Thank you,
Okay,
Bob.
Bob, it's your motion now.
Adjourn.
Second.
Famous Bob and Ray, and then we'll, any discussion? All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.